Winter day. Snow fell like ash over the broken spine of Redstone Gulch, a mining town long past its boom. The once noisy saloons were now boarded shut, the church bell hadn't rung in months, and every face that passed kept eyes low, hearts lower. Annie Jail Walker, 11 years old, stood in the middle of the main street. Her little boots were soaked. Her wool dress had holes, and in her arms she cradled a baby wrapped in a threadbare blanket, too small to fight the chill and too hot with fever to shiver. In some towns, the ground don't just freeze, so do hearts. And in the winter of 71, Redstone Gulch was colder than the grave. Annie's breath came in quick, cloudy puffs as she moved to a door. She knocked. A latch clicked. A crack opened. Woman, mid-40s, tired eyes. "Who is it?" "Annie." "Ma'am, my brother's real sick. Mama passed last week. I just need some medicine or—" Slam. The door shut. She blinked fast, lips trembling. Her arms adjusted the bundle against her chest. Samuel whimpered. His little hand reached toward her cheek, burning with fever. She knocked again, different house. The man who opened it reeked of whiskey. "Drunken man." "What's this?" "Beggar girl. You come around here again, and I'll sick the dogs on you." He kicked snow toward her. Slam. She tried a third, a fourth. Faces behind curtains watched, but none opened. A younger woman peered from a window and slowly shook her head. Her eyes said sorry, but the curtain fell all the same. Annie stumbled toward the church, only to find the doors chained shut. Even God, it seemed, had left town. General store, day. The last building, with smoke curling from the chimney, was McCleary's General Goods. Annie hesitated outside, then pushed open the door. General store, continuous. It was warm. Shelves lined with sacks of flour, salted meats, tin cups. A pot-bellied stove burned red in the corner. 2 men sat playing cards beside it. One wore a long, dark duster coat and said nothing. Behind the counter, Mr. McCleary, a red-faced man with heavy jowls, looked up. "McCleary, what's this now?" Annie stepped forward. Her voice cracked. "Annie, sir, please. My baby brother's burning up. Mama's gone. Pa's. He left weeks back and ain't come back. We got nothing. Could I could sweep floors or stock the shelves. Anything. Just a bit o' medicine. Maybe some sugar for him." The store grew quiet. McCleary stared at her, then at the baby, whose skin was flushed and damp, his lips dry. "McCleary, you got coin?" Annie, "No, sir." McCleary, "Then you best take yourself outside. This ain't a charity post." Annie whispers, "He's just a baby." McCleary looked away, uncomfortable, pretending to adjust a display. A creak came from the stove corner. The man in the dark, duster coat rose slowly. His face was shadowed beneath the brim of his hat. The other card player tensed slightly. He limped toward them, boots heavy on the floorboards. He was tall, broad in the shoulders. A scar ran from his cheekbone to his neck, partly hidden by the collar of a faded red flannel beneath the coat. His eyes, gray and glassy, locked with Annie's. Without a word, he slid his coat off, revealing a thick canvas shirt beneath. He stepped forward and gently wrapped the coat around baby Samuel, tucking the edges to shield him from the draft. Man, quietly, "Follow me." Annie hesitated. "Annie, sir, who are you?" He didn't answer, just turned toward the door. McCleary stepped forward. "McCleary, hey now, Harlan, you don't want no part of this. That baby won't make it. She's just a burden." The man stopped. He looked back. Only once. Harlan flat. Wearing a skin dot. Then he pushed the door open and stepped out into the snow. Annie looked down at Samuel, who was now wrapped warm and quiet. She didn't know why she trusted this stranger, but something in her heart, something desperate and raw, moved her legs. She followed him, outskirts, Later. The snow was falling thicker now. The man led her past the frozen stables, the collapsed gallows, the old pickaxe monument that miners had raised during the war. Out of town. Annie's teeth chattered. Her arms burned. But Samuel breathed easier now, cheeks damp from warmth. Folks said nothing good ever came from following strangers into the woods. But when every door slams shut behind you, sometimes the only way forward is the path no one dares take. They passed the last tree stump that marked Redstone's edge. Beyond lay miles of forest, shadows in the snow, the sound of crows somewhere distant. But the man didn't speak. He just limped onward, deeper into the white. And Annie, holding her brother, followed. Snowy woods. Late afternoon. The wind picked up as the sun slipped behind the trees. Long shadows stretched across the white, and the silence was broken only by the crunch of boots through snow. Annie Jo trudged behind the stranger, her arms wrapped tightly around baby Samuel, now swaddled in the oversized duster coat. His fevered breath warmed her neck. In the wilds, trust is a gamble, and sometimes you follow a man not because you know he's good, but because you know what bad looks like, and he ain't that. The man didn't speak, not until they reached the mouth of a ravine. Jed Harlan, cabins just ahead. His voice was gravel, worn, but not unkind. Forest cabin night, tucked beneath a rock shelf. Barely visible behind pine boughs and drifted snow, sat a crooked log cabin, patched with bark and tin. Smoke curled from a narrow chimney. Inside, it was dim and sparse. A cot, a cast-iron stove, an old rocking chair, and a table scarred by time and fire. A rifle hung above the door. Jed set down his satchel and went straight to the stove, stoking it to life. Jed set him down, not too close to the heat. Annie laid Samuel beside the fire on a bedroll of old quilts. His cheeks were bright, skin slick with sweat. His fever had worsened. She knelt, panicking. Annie, he's burning up. Jed nodded, already moving. He retrieved dried herbs from a rafter and filled a dented pot with boiled snow water, dropping in pine needles and ground bark. Annie, suspicious. What's that? Jed, pine tincture. Drops the fever. He pulled a spoon from a drawer and gently blew across the steam, then helped her lift Samuel. The baby whimpered, but swallowed the warm broth. Cabin. Later that night. The storm began with a low rumble. Then came the snow, thick, sideways, angry. The cabin groaned in the wind. Annie stared at the fire, her hands wrapped around a tin mug. She watched Jed move quietly, slicing jerky for dinner, tending the coals, checking Samuel's forehead. On the wall above his cot was a faded photograph, a young woman holding a baby, both smiling. Annie saw the way Jed looked at it when he thought she wasn't watching. Annie, that your wife? Jed didn't answer. He picked up a small carving knife and whittled a scrap of wood into curls. Annie soft. She's pretty. Jed, after a beat. Was. He stood and hung a blanket over the window, shutting out the storm. Some men run to forget. But even out here, the ghosts sit by the fire. Int. Cabin night. The wind screamed. Wolves howled from the hills. Annie lay on the floor beside Samuel, his little fingers curled around hers. Annie, quiet prayer. God, I know you're mad. Or gone. Or maybe you forgot us. But if you're out there, just let him live. I'll do anything. I'll never steal bread again. I'll be good. From the shadows, Jed spoke. Jed, God don't always come when you call. Annie snapping. Then what's the point? Jed, you don't wait on him. You do the work. You feed the sick. Chop the wood. Watch for wolves. That's prayin', too. He handed her a bundle of kindling. Jed conted. Start with this. Montage, survival days. Annie learns to chop kindling, swinging the hatchet until her hands blister. She crushes herbs for broth, watches Jed boil water 3 times before giving it to Samuel. She hangs wet socks to dry. Jed shows her how to watch the trilene for movement, how to read snow prints, how to listen for silence. Their conversations are brief, sometimes silent. But there's warmth now. Nightmare sequence. Burning town night. Jed stands amid flames licking at wooden buildings. Gun smoke curling around his shoulders. Screams. A gang of men rides off, hollering. Jed looks down. A woman and a baby lie beneath rubble. Burned. Gone. Narrator VO. He once rode with the Hollow Jack gang. Burned a town to smoke for silver. Lost everything to fire, he struck himself. This cabin. These woods, they were his penance. And maybe his prison. Cabin night. The fire glowed low. Annie rose to pee but stopped. Jed sat by the window, back turned, sharpening an old rifle slowly, rhythmically. His shoulders trembled. Just once. Not from cold. She didn't say anything. Just went back to bed. Int. Cabin dawn. Samuel stirred. Then coughed. But it wasn't weak. His cheeks weren't crimson anymore. His eyes blinked open. Annie gasping. Jed. He's better. Look. He's really. She scooped him up, laughing through tears. Jed stepped to the fire, watching, one hand on his hip, the other holding a tin mug. He allowed a soft smile. Jed. He's a tough one. Annie looked at him. Annie. So are you. But before he could answer, he froze. Then knelt beside the door. His hand brushed over the threshold. Hoof prints. He studied them. Deep. Deliberate. 6, maybe more. Men on horseback. He stood slowly and crossed to the wall, lifting the old rifle from its mount. Jed. They ain't from town. Annie's smile faded. Annie. Who are they? He looked out the window, jaw tight. Jed. Men from before. They're after me. Beat. And now maybe you too. Annie swallowed, clutching Samuel close. Outside, the storm had cleared, but danger was riding in its place. Early morning. The sky outside was still dark, but not for long. A bruised purple hue stretched across the horizon, promising dawn. But what it promised didn't matter. Danger already pressed in. Jed stood by the window, loading bullets into the old rifle with slow, practiced movements. Every click echoed like thunder in the silence. Annie held Samuel close, heart pounding, breath short. Outside, hoofbeats had come and gone, but they'd be back. Jed could feel it in his bones. He walked over and knelt beside her. Jed, there's a crawl space. Under the woodbox. You hide there if things go south. Annie, what about you? He looked at her, just for a moment, like he was seeing something he never thought he'd get to see again. Jed, I bought enough time to die once. Ain't planning to waste this second chance. He pressed a small brass key into her palm. Jed, softly. Lock it from inside. Don't open unless it's me. Snow lay thick and undisturbed, except where Jed's traps had been set. Hidden trip wires. A snare. A sharpened branch swung up with tension, ready to strike. And then, from the trees, hoofbeats. 3 riders emerged like ghosts from the forest. Long coats, dark hats, rifles slung lazy across their saddles. At the front rode Reese Maddox, grizzled, mean-eyed, with a scar that split his mouth into a permanent sneer. He was once Jed's blood brother, a fellow bushwhacker from the bad years. Now he was something worse. Reese. Well, I'll be damned if it ain't the preacher of the pine woods himself. Jed stepped out from the cabin door, rifle raised. Jed, you're trespassing. Reese, laughing. You disappeared like a ghost. Burned bridges. Left gold on the table. Now here you are, playing nursemaid to some brat. Jed, wasn't gold worth keepin'. Reese, grinning. Then I'll take what's left. Gunfire erupts. The first man dismounted, stepped forward, snap. A trap slammed shut on his leg. He screamed, toppling into the snow. The second dove for cover, but Jed was already moving. Blam! One clean shot into the chest. Annie, from the crawl space below, covered Samuel's ears. Her body trembled with every bang. Above, it was war. Reese moved like a wolf. Clever, fast. He fired from the trees, clipped Jed's shoulder. Jed rolled behind the well, breathing heavy, blood soaked through his coat. Reese, calling out, "You're slow now, old man. You ain't who you used to be." Jed grunting, "Good. That man don't deserve to live anyway." The woods fell quiet, until Reese stepped into view. Jed rose slowly, rifle aimed. Reese leveled his pistol. They stared each other down. Reese, "Didn't have to be this way. We were brothers, Jed." Jed, "Yeah. And then we burned children." Reese, "You ran. I stayed." Jed, "I left. You chose." Reese, "I never got to forget like you." Jed low, "I didn't forget. I just started remembering, right?" A beat. Then, bang. Jed's rifle fired, but missed. Reese's bullet hit him in the gut, sending him crashing to the snow. Cabin crawl space, same time. Annie heard the shot. Then nothing. She gripped the key, then Samuel, then the old iron shovel Jed had left near the firewood. Her face set. She unlocked the trapdoor. Cabin clearing continuous. Reese walked toward Jed, cocking the revolver again. Reese, "Hell of a waste. All that hiding." Annie OS, "Hey." He turned, just in time for the shovel to crack against his temple. Whack. He dropped to one knee. Jed, bleeding, raised his rifle one last time. Bang. Reese slumped over, dead. The clearing fell into total silence. Cabin porch. Moments later, Annie cradled Jed's head in her lap, sobbing. Blood covered her arms, her skirt. Jed coughed. Weak, but still breathing. Annie, "Don't die. Please don't die." "I can't. I won't do this without you." He opened one eye barely. Jed whispers, "Not planning to, but damn, that shovel swing near killed me too." She laughed through her tears. Annie, "You stubborn old coot." Church Town Day. The snow had melted to slush by the time the wagon reached the town's edge. People stopped in their tracks, mouths open, gasps rising. Annie, windblown, muddy, held Samuel close as Jed Harlan, wrapped in bandages, limped beside her. He carried the boy gently, reverently, into the church infirmary. Pastor Miller came out, stunned. "Pastor, Jed." Jed only nodded. Inside, nurses rushed to take Samuel. This time, no one ignored Annie. No one shooed her away. They looked at her like she was someone now. Outskirts cabin, months later, sunset. A new cabin sat quiet on a grassy hill, birdsong in the air, trees swaying gently. On the porch, Jed sat in a rocking chair, scarred but alive, carving a toy horse out of soft pine. Inside, laughter rang out. Annie read from a tattered storybook. Samuel nestled beside her. Healthy now, round-cheeked and bright-eyed. Jed watched the sun settle behind the hills. He wasn't her daddy, but he was the man who'd saved her world. And in the west, that meant more than blood. The wind carried the scent of fresh earth, the sound of new life. Jed smiled. Sometimes, angels don't come with wings. Sometimes, they show up with scars, carrying the weight of their past and a child in their arms. If this story stirred, click the like button and subscribe our channel for new video.